This video summarizes Habit 7, Sharpen the Saw, from the book The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So, principles of balanced self-renewal. So sometimes the author puts in a context of thinking about how, imagine cutting down a tree for hours, but then you don't stop because you're too busy cutting down this tree to sharpen that saw, even though sharpening the saw will just take 5 minutes, and then it'd be much easier to cut down that tree. So kind of this is in life, like sometimes we are too busy to reflect and take time to care for ourselves. So this habit 7, really makes all the others possible. So there's 4 dimensions of renewal for our natures. So there's physical, spiritual, mental, and social/emotional. So to sharpen the saw, we really need to be proactive, and this is a quadrant 2 activity. It's really important, but it's not something that we think is urgent. However, it is probably the most powerful investment in our lives. So we really need to take time to care for this instrument. This is ourself. We are the instrument of our own performance. Take time to sharpen this saw and really help ourselves out in all 4 of these dimensions. So the first one, physical dimension, really caring effectively for our physical body. So like eating right, resting, relaxation, exercise. So exercise is extremely important and critical that we find time to do. So really there's 3 areas in exercise. So first being endurance, try to have a high heart rate for an extended period of time. Flexibility, stretching, and then strength, really pushing yourself and realizing that almost all the benefits of a strengthening workout comes near the end when we're really struggling and stretching and tearing those muscle fibers. So start slowly. You may hate it at first, but be proactive and just do it anyway. Spiritual dimension. This is very different for everybody, but it is a core to our value system. And so really this takes an investment of our time, but it's something we just can't afford to neglect. The greatest battles of our life are fought out daily in the silent chambers of our soul. So however you reflect on life and however you connect spiritually to the world around you, make sure you do that. And if you settle those internal conflicts, you realize you'll have greater peace in just all aspects of your life. So I'm sure you're probably aware of the spiritual part of your life and how you're doing in that, but really focus and try to exercise that spiritual dimension and really take time for it. The 4th dimension is the mental dimension. And so most of us develop this mental dimension through formal education, going to school. However, after we finish school, we really don't work to improve learning much further. We often spend more time in front of the TV than really seriously reading or trying to learn. And TV is a good servant, but don't let it become a master of you. Don't let it control you. Proactive people really find ways to educate themselves. And there's no really better way to expand and inform than reading good literature on a regular basis. Also, writing is a great way to sharpen the saw, such as keeping a journal or writing letters. And the author really encourages us to spend 1 hour a day sharpening the saw in these 3 dimensions, physical, spiritual, and mental. Really seek to improve your life physically, spiritually, and mentally. Expand and learn. And as you do this will affect every decision in your life and every relationship. And it really, as you spend that 1 hour a day, will improve the quality of all the other hours in your day. The social and emotional dimension. So this really focuses more outward, our relationships with others, which are habits 4, 5, and 6, while the other dimensions really focused inward and on ourselves, habits 1, 2, and 3. The author talks about how really it takes effort and practice to communicate efficiently, effectively, and don't think that it'll happen all overnight, but really work at it. A life of integrity is the most fundamental source of personal worth. So he really stresses to live a life of integrity. Also, that will also help you have a peace of mind. And really, that peace of mind comes from when you live in harmony with true principles and values. So intrinsic security comes from service and blessing others, really having that sense of security. And when you serve, seek influence and not recognition. Don't try to share how much you're doing, but really seek to really make other people's lives better and focus on them and not yourself. A long, healthy, happy life is a result of making contributions and blessing the lives of others. Scripting others. So most people are scripted by the social mirror. This is where others' opinions and perspectives on somebody really is how they base themselves, is what they think of themselves. So what we reflect on others is how they think of themselves. And we need to realize that and help them script themselves to be a more principle-centered, value-based, and worthwhile individual. So really see the potential in others and let them know what they can be. Reflect just positive energy to them. Reflect everything good that they're doing, how great they can be. And with the abundance mentality, really reflecting that positive thoughts to them, it doesn't diminish us because there's an abundance of good that can be in the world. Just because somebody else is great doesn't mean that other people have to be worse than them, but everybody can be great. Believe in others, even if they don't believe in themselves. Really encourage them to be proactive. Just remember, the more you talk to them, the more you reflect to them, that's how they're going to change. That's who they're going to be. So if you treat a man as he is, he will remain as he is. Treat a man as he can and should be, and he will become as he can and should be. So I just really love that quote. Just remember that treat others with the potential they deserve. So remembering the 4 dimensions, we really need to have a balance in all 4 of those dimensions and really try to make sure we're focusing on each one and making sure we're renewing each one, because if we're lacking to renew one, it's going to negatively impact all the rest. And these 4 dimensions can also be thought of in an organization perspective, although they're going to have a little different terminology. So like physical will be economical, mental will be recognition, development, use of talents. Then the social emotional dimension will be human relations and how people are treated. And then finally, spiritual, really within the organization, each individual finding meaning through purpose, contribution, and the integrity of the organization. And as you can imagine, if you're lacking in one of these dimensions, the organization is not going to reach its full potential. It's going to struggle. And so really make sure the organization that you're in is strong in all 4 of these dimensions. Synergy and renewal. So all these dimensions are really interrelated. So strengthening one will have a positive impact on the other dimensions. And then all these dimensions and the habits are really closely tied together. And so, such as you're more proactive, which is habit 1, you more effectively can exercise personal leadership, habit 2, and management in your life. Then the more effectively you manage your life, the more quadrant 2, renewing activities you can do. And then the more you seek to first understand, the more effectively you can go for win-win solutions and so on. So all the habits and the dimensions are really intertwined. So another really thought in this chapter, he generalized, I like this quote where he says, your economic security doesn't lie in your job, it lies in your own power to produce, to think, to learn, to create, and adapt. So that's true financial independence. It's not really having wealth, it's the power to produce wealth. So it's intrinsic. The upward spiral. So once we become self-aware, we need to choose principles and purposes to live by. Otherwise, that vacuum will be filled. And you don't want to be acted upon, you want to act. And so part of acting, you need to continue to learn, commit, and do on higher planes. So really work to be proactive and grow and develop your skills and work to push these habits into your life. And as you do that, you'll continue to spiral upwards. You'll have a better and better more effective life. Then he finishes this part of the chapter with application suggestions. So make a list of activities you want to do to keep in shape, and then select one activity and make it your goal for that upcoming week. And then at the end of the week, evaluate your performance. Same with the other dimensions. And always just evaluate. Well, set a goal, do it, and then evaluate and see the performance. And also commit to write down specific sharpen the saw ideas. How can you renew yourself in all 4 of these dimensions each week? Then do them, and then evaluate your performance. So after he discusses the 7 habits, he ends the book with this chapter called Insideout Again. And he starts out by talking how one of the most influential quotes he read was that there's a gap or a space between stimulus and response, and the key to both our growth and happiness is how we use that space. And then he goes into telling a story about how he, for years and years, had deep, meaningful conversations with his spouse, and how that greatly strengthened their relationship, and they were able to build their relationship from the inside out through trust and openness. And if we try to build relationships through the outside in, there's really not enough band-aids or things to cover up, or there's too many negative thoughts building up inside us to really make that relationship be as successful as it could be. And he goes on telling how it is important for our children to feel as they are part of a tribe, a family, an intergenerational family. And remember that you are the link between your past families and future families, and your actions now can affect many, many lives downstream. Just because your past family did something some way, you don't have to do that. You can change and bring a better future for your future families. Or if they did amazing things, continue that link on. Be that link that is strong families. And really, changes, they come from the inside out. It's not trimming the branches, but instead you're striking at the roots. You're really going deep into those problems and fixing those from the inside out. So his final words, I just kind of want to read these last few sentences. He says, achieving unity, oneness with ourselves, with our loved ones, with our families, with our friends and working associates, is the highest and best and most delicious fruit of the 7 habits. Most of us have tasted this fruit of true unity from time to time in the past, as we have also tasted the bitter, lonely fruit of disunity, and we know how precious and fragile unity is. Obviously, building a character of total integrity and living the life of love and service that creates such unity isn't easy. It isn't quick fix, but it is possible. It begins with the desire to center our lives on correct principles, to break out the paradigms created by other centers and the comfort zones of unworthy habits. Sometimes we make mistakes, we feel awkward, but if we start with the daily private victory and work from the inside out, the results will surely come. As we plant the seed and patiently weed and nourish it, we begin to feel the excitement of real growth and eventually taste the incomparable delicious fruit of congruent effective life. And then again he quotes Emerson, that which we persist in doing becomes easier, not that the nature of the task has changed, but our ability to do has increased. And finally he says, by centering our lives on correct principles and creating a balanced focus between doing and increasing our ability to do, we become empowered in the task of creating effective, useful, and peaceful lives for ourselves and for our posterity. And he continues in closing with just his personal conviction of how these 7 habits have really changed his life, and centering his life on correct principles, which he believes the source of those correct principles is God. And thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed.